up, everybody? Today we're going to do a build breakdown on the lifted Civic. It's a 1999 Honda Civic EX on 29-inch mud terrain tires. So, when I got the car, it was just a bare shell, and we built it for an event called the Gambler 500, which is 500-mile navigation rally in $500 beater cars. Ended up building this thing for about $480, and I've got my price breakdown right there. You can pause it if you want to see every little thing, but it's a D16 Z6 out of a 92-95 Honda Civic EX, so it's a OBD1 engine in a OBD2 chassis, so that's kind of weird. I had to do a bunch of jumper harnesses, distributor, injectors, ECU, all that stuff. But nothing, just bone stock engine, nothing done to it. Built the front bumper out of some handrails. First thing I ever welded, obviously. And then we just recently built a roof rack out of the same handrails, but had a good welder. So big thanks to Zach there. He did all the welding on the roof rack, design, everything. Turned out really good. Alright, so what I know y'all really want to see is how do you fit 29s on an EK, or on a Civic in general. So all we did in here was we went and got a buddy that works at a machine shop, and we machined out a 2 and it was 2 3/4 inch spacer, I believe. If you want to see that, we got a video on how we made that and everything. And then to fit the 29s, we had to cut a lot out of this thing. So we cut almost all the way back to the door hinge here. On the bottom, we cut all the way into the jacking point, and then took a sledgehammer and just beat everything back as far as we could. And then we cut back so far right here that it was just a huge hole, and it would let the water into the car. So I had to make that plate right there to help keep some of the water out. And then in the front, surprisingly, it doesn't really have any issues. It goes right here. So if y'all saw Honda Rescue Garage on the War Wagon, he actually had to cut all the way to his door hinge here. So not quite as extreme as the War Wagon, but it is the same size tires as he's got. And in the front, it's also, you can see in the hub here, it's a double stacked inch spacers. So it's got 2 inches worth of spacers in it. I don't recommend that, it's pretty dangerous. And then in the back, it's got 15x7 with a 2-inch back spacing and a 1-inch spacer. And it's pretty aggressive. And then just some cheap Amazon flares. We ripped them off at the Fresh Gambler, and I just kind of pieced them all back together. But to get the back to fit is where we had a little bit more problems. We cut it all the way in to where the trailing arm bolts in, and then with the stock rims, the tire was actually hitting the trailing arm back there, which is why it's got these wheels on the back and still the stock's in the front. But we had to cut all this, cut it back so far that the body's splitting away, and then cut pretty deep into the door, all through there. So just a lot of cutting, and then the same thing in the back, strut spacer. And then for the exhaust, we've got the truck stack just welded to the factory exhaust there with a bunch of
adapters.
Yeah, with a bunch of step-up adapters from the parts store. That's all mud, not weld. And then the roof rack and everything. And then on the inside, it's just all gutted. Nothing really there, just the seats, dash, center console, whatever. So for the most part, it's still just bone stock 99 EX with some strut spacers and a lot of saws on, a lot of hammering. And then I guess really the only other thing we have left is the light bar. It's just a cheap Amazon light bar. Pretty bright though, does the job. So, very basic build. I guess one thing, we've also got the skid plate down here that covers up from the core support all the way to the firewall, and it's cut out for the suspension to move and everything down there. So, there's a couple little things here and there, you know, the strut spacers, a skid plate, but for the most part, it's just a bone stock Civic. It still drives like a Civic. It's still front wheel drive, open diff.
One wheel kill.
Yeah, nothing special at all. But if you're watching this video to see how to do this, and you don't have any way to make those spacers, you can go to Honda Rescue Garage. The link will be in the description, and he sells everything you'd ever need: strut spacers, subframe drops, extended spindles, everything. Literally anything you got, he's got some part to get your lift kit going. So that's all for this one. Just a real quick rundown of what it is, how much we had to cut and stuff like that. Still stock axles. But that's going to be all for this one. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see on this car, and I'll try and make it happen. But we'll see you next time. Peace.